Hello, everyone. It's Melissa Reeves with Melanin Stories Matter. I'm the producer and director of the show, and I absolutely love this project and this mission that we're on. And we are here in this series, to continue to learn more about our amazing storytellers that we have on our shows. I'm very excited to have Michael Smith with me today. He was in our Indigenous show in November and did an incredible job on his story. Our dad, the Code Talker. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. And he is, yeah, Acoma and Navajo. And please, Michael, introduce yourself. And then we're going to talk a lot about your story and where you're headed with it.
Hey Melissa, how you doing? It's
Yeah.
good to see you again. And today, Michael Smith Yunshe. I'm Acoma. I'm Eagle Clan. Jami Hanu. Acome. And I am Red Running Into Water Clan from Navajo. And that's Nanish Ejutachini Bashashchi. I'm born for the Red Running Into Water Clan tobacco branch. And my grandpa on my mom's side is Sun, and my grandpa on my dad's side is Bitterwater.
Bitter. Okay. What is the red water running? Can you say that one more time and explain that a little bit more for those of us who are learning a lot about
Sure.
Indigenous culture?
Red Running Into Water.
Mm-hmm.
When I first heard it, I thought it was like really tough and like a battle scene, and there was, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but what it really is it's a clear stream with a stream that has red sand in it running into it, and when they go together it makes a red running into water. that's
Oh,
that's what it is.
okay. Because I had the same idea. I thought blood. I did. So it's
No,
red
it's
sand.
red.
Yeah.
It's a clear river like the
Mm-hmm.
Colorado,
Right.
with the sandy river coming into it,
Mm-hmm.
and like the little Colorado from Navajo land.
Mm-hmm.
And when they come together, then it forms a red streak into the Colorado River and actually into the Grand Canyon.
Wow.
I'm
Now,
not
where
sure
do
if that's
you?
where it comes from, but that's kind of like the concept.
Cool. And where do you live? Let's let our audience know, like your area of residence.
I am from Fort Defiance, Navajo Nation, Arizona,
All
and I
right.
live in Winter Rock, Arizona.
And your wife, when we were getting ready, was telling me you had snow there 2 weeks ago. That blew my mind.
Yeah.
Like, Arizona and snow,
Still
what?
have we still have like these flurries where the snow just floats around. Pretty cool.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that sounds beautiful. Well, you've sent lots of pictures. It's stunning where
I
you live. Yeah, yeah. I
love it.
had so much
Home.
fun working with you.
Thank
So let's talk about a little bit. Let's just do a little step back in time when this is like October, November, we were working on your story. So the story is our dad, the Navajo Code Talker. Why don't you give a little summary of it? Well, first I want to say this. I love how what you did was you embodied your father as you were telling the story, as if you were him, and it was really cool. It was a great choice by you and very captivating. We will have a link on this. This is the video interview. We'll have a link to make sure that people can see your story again because it's gotten a lot of views, and
Oh,
so
really?
yeah, it has. It
I haven't
has.
gone back to see how many views it's at.
You're popular.
Well,
So tell
yeah.
tell the audience a little bit about the story and your history with the Navajo Code Talkers and what they are.
Um, well, first of all, my father, Samuel Jesse Smith Sr., is
Mhm.
a Navajo Code Talker. He survived the battles of Roy Nemore, Saipan, Tinian, and Iwo Jima. Uh, and that's where it starts. my dad.
Hmm. Well, why don't you tell me? There's a lot of audience that does not even know it, or they know just very little. And here we have someone whose father was a Navajo Code Talker. Like, what? Tell us, like, what did they do that was so amazing?
And during World War II, back before Native Americans could vote, um, the Japanese were taking charge of the Pacific. And the reason why is because that they were breaking all of the communication that the United States had against the Japanese. And there was an individual, his name is Philip Johnston, who was raised out in the Cameron area, the western side of Navajo land, and his father was a missionary. So Mr. Johnston actually learned Navajo, one of a handful of people that learned Navajo, which at that time was unwritten. It was oral
Hmm.
oral tradition that was passed on. It's not a language really, it's just a way of life. And so Mr. Johnston, who later joined the Army and then the Marine Corps, suggested to the Marines that they use Native American language as secure transmission. And of course, Native Americans at that time were still being put on reservation and being trying to uh, what do you call it? Assimilated into Western culture.
Yeah.
And so they were still on the beginning edge of that. After all the battles and stuff. So we were in a transition period during that time, and so Native Americans really weren't highly thought of, just like Black people.
Hmm.
And so, of course, it was a hard pitch for the Marine Corps. And so what they did is they recruited 30 Navajo men. Um, One which was unable to make it to boot camp because of some family emergency that he had. He later ended up joining, still joining the Marine Corps and fighting in Europe, the 30th Man.
Hmm.
Um, but the first 29, they were recruited and they went to boot camp and they developed a code uh, for the Marine Corps. The difference in this code is that it was a code within the language. It wasn't just speaking the language, it was a code within the language. And that it could be sent in various communications that the Marine Corps had available to it. So the men were actually communicate when they went to boot camp, graduated boot camp, they were Marines. Then after they graduated boot camp, they were tested, and some were, not accepted based on the criteria that the Marine Corps had set out, which was you had to have knowledge in reference to the English language, the Navajo language, and how to write in English. So those were like the three major requirements. Oh, and of course intelligence, because you couldn't write this down. You had to keep it. You had to retain it in your, you know, you had to
Yeah.
retain it in your mind and use it in battle under fire. And so these men were actually tested in that prior to going into communication school. So the next thing was that the men were trained in comm school. They were taught all the communication methods that were available to the Marine Corps in the 40s.
These are the men that passed the first criteria, though, right? So
Right.
they could write in
No,
English
these
and
are all the men. These are all the
oh,
code talkers now. So the
yeah,
first
right.
they developed the code, and they developed the code within the language.
Got it.
But all the men were all tested in reference to this criteria,
Yes.
and eventually there were 418 plus because a lot of them are undocumented, because it was so classified that their MOSs weren't consistent throughout the Marine Corps. They varied from communications men to actually saying Navajo Code Talker as their MOS.
Hmm.
um, so once they passed the initial tests, then they were sent to comm school and they were taught all the communication available. After that, they were sent to Navajo Code Talker School. So actually a school at Camp Elliott in over between San Diego and Camp Pendleton,
Hmm.
where I think it's Camp Pendleton or San Diego and Fallbrook or Escondido. Um, so that's where Navajo Code Talker School was. An
Hmm.
actual Navajo code, the actual school to learn the code.
Hmm.
And the code was based on the Navajo language, and like say for instance, things that were flying in the air were named after planes. Things that were amphibious were named after stuff like turtles and frogs. You know, they just used what they knew from home and they applied it to the military and they made a code out of it. And but the thing is that another Navajo who knew the language wouldn't know what they were saying because it was coded in the
Right.
language. That's what
Right.
made it unique. And because it's documented in, you know, United States history and Marine Corps history that this is what their program was and it's outlined. So yeah, the Navajo Code Talkers, they're unique. And
So, for instance, like a ship would be called what to a code talker? What Navajo word would they use? And then you had like bomb was an egg, wasn't it?
right,
In
right,
bombs were egg in Navajo, so whatever that word
right.
is. Right. So
Yeah,
the
I don't
Japanese
remember what.
can't crack it. They can't. And
Yeah,
another person not trained in the code that it's not because you later said that they started capturing Navajo. The Japanese started capturing Navajo soldiers and trying to
right,
get them to break this code, and they couldn't do it.
right,
He thought he
right.
was talking about breakfast.
Right, right. Talking about eggs. Talk about eggs and bacon. I'm just kidding.
But
But
it was a bomb strike that they were talking about.
yeah, that's right.
That's that's powerful. So
And so, um, and after the Battle of Iwo Jima,
mhm.
uh, and there was a statement by the Signal Corps, the Fifth Marine Signal Corps officer, Major Connor. Can't remember his name, but anyway, he said, "If it wasn't for the Navajos, we would have never taken Iwo Jima." Yeah,
Oh, that's powerful.
that is because
Yeah.
a lot of the men um that I was blessed to have worked for and meet and to travel with, they survived that battle. They were 4th Marine Division, 5th Marine Division, 3rd Marine Division, survived the Battle of Iwo Jima, and you know, my dad did too, and he came home. And there's people that we've met around the country, around the world, that have come up to these men and thanked them for what they've
Mhm.
did. And, you know, their fathers have told them, or their grandfathers have told them about the Navajo Code Talkers, and when they meet them, they're, oh man, thank you for using your language.
Yeah, it was genius. Genius. Yeah. And then they had to keep it top secret for a long time. So the war ends.
Well, you know what? On the congressional medal,
Yeah.
that's the language that's on there. It's called the Navajo Code Talker Congressional Gold and Silver Medal, and there's Navajo language on there,
Hmm.
and the translation is the Navajo language was used in battle against the enemy.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's on the medal.
Wow.
Congress,
Yeah, and your dad got that.
all the men,
Yeah.
and we're still trying to search out men that, or I hope they do, because there were still some medals that were given to the Navajo veterans, or the Navajo Veterans Office,
Hmm.
and so if those families can show the documentation, then those medals are available through the Office of the Navajo President.
Okay. All right.
So,
Well, we'll get a link for that. So when we post this, we can
but
do a
you have,
shout out for that.
but these are Navajo Code Talkers. Everybody, no, I'm just kidding. Uh, but
Well, you never
so
know if a grandchild might go, wait a second, that's me. I know that. That's our family. You just don't know. So let's see.
I'll give you a specific person.
Hmm.
Um, my friend Ray Tracy,
Hmm.
dad has photographs of him in the National Archives, and because he doesn't have the documentation,
Hmm.
his family still have not received the silver medal.
Oh.
I think the Code Talker's name is Peter Tracy, and he's from Nazlini. Navajo
Hmm.
are still waiting to get his silver medal.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, this could be sent to
And you know what
people.
my dad's comment was about the silver medal?
Mhm.
It's it's good, it's good to get medals, but medals really don't mean as much to me, but it's the gratitude of the people expressing their thanks. That's what means a lot. That was what my dad said.
Yeah. The spirit and essence of what the gratitude was much more important to
Right,
his
right.
heart. Yeah,
To
than the
feel,
actual medal.
shake their hand and to hear them say that to him, that was more than a medal.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's talk about National Code Talkers Day. It's in August, and you've been a big player in making that get recognition. And can you share a little bit about that?
I don't know if it was me, but
Well, you
because
elevated it a little bit. You have something to do with it. You're so humble.
no, actually, in 1982, President Ronald Reagan declared August 14th,
Hmm.
1982, as National Navajo Code Talkers Day. The documented proclamation from President Reagan.
Hmm.
And although he only called out for that day to be recognized as Navajo Code Talker Day, um, the men still celebrated it as their own every year.
Hmm.
I had no idea about this until I went to a Code Talker meeting with my father, and we went in, and the secretary, Jean Whitehorse, she calls the meeting to order, and then they say the Pledge of Allegiance and the prayer, and then she says, "Okay, we're gonna adjourn. We're gonna go over to this restaurant, and we're gonna have a lunch for Navajo Code Talker Day." And so we adjourned, and then I was like, "What's Navajo Code Talker Day, Dad?" And then he told me what it was about the proclamation and what they thought of it, that it was their own day. So we went over there and we had lunch, and That was that was their monthly meeting that day in
Hmm.
August. And so um, the after that, I had the opportunity to travel with some of the men. I think it was Keith Little or Samuel Billison that asked if I Samuel Billison when he was the president of the Navajo Code Talkers Association. He called me and he said, "Hey, Mike, can you do this?" And then I said, "Sure." And he asked if I could organize a trip for the men to go to Saskatoon to attend the Iwo Jima Celebration. And so I went down there with them, and it was really cool because I thought they were actually celebrating uh, um, Ira Hayes, but they're actually celebrating the raising of the flag on Iwo Jima,
Oh,
and
wow.
Ira Hayes was part of it. And so they honor not just Ira Hayes, but they honor the Marines, United
Mm.
States Marine Corps, and it was great. They
Yeah.
had a parade at sunrise. They had planes fly over. They had tons of Marines and just a sea of crimson and gold. Yeah,
That's
and
amazing.
afterwards they had a like a luncheon, and then they have this theater in front of uh, the Veterans Park there, and they told a story. They actually told the story of the flag raising at that event. Man, I thought that was powerful. To
Yeah, I
see
bet.
to sit there with the Navajo Code Talkers and all
Yeah.
these other World War II veterans sitting in the front. Yeah,
What a gift to be asked to go and do that, And
I
oh my
had no
God.
clue. I had no clue. It was just like you could see these men, and then they would just visit, and they would come over and talk to the Code Talkers. Yeah, very special men. The night before they had a banquet. The Code Talkers were honored as special guests, and Keith Little, my dad, I think it was Mr. Buck, and Willard Oliver, and their families, of course. But the men, they wanted to ride together and sleep in the same hotel together and eat together. Which we went to IHOP that morning, and when the people knew that these were Navajo Code Talkers, they didn't have to.
Payment to pay. Wow. Hmm.
Their money was good.
Their honor was. Yeah.
Yeah, so they
Yeah.
ate their honor. That's beautiful.
That is beautiful. Yeah. Very
And
beautiful. Hmm.
but after that event, oh, and then they had a powwow and a gourd dance, and it lasted it was like 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we drove home that that evening or afternoon because they wanted to leave early, but they wanted to go shop before they left, and then so we went to the powwow and they shopped, and then we headed home. And when we got to the Mogollon Rim, we came back to the valley and we got up to the Mogollon Rim on the top, where the Colorado Plateau starts. And I pulled off by the guardrail, and I think someone needed to use the restroom. That's how come we stopped. Hey, I need to,
Hmm. It
you know,
happens.
you know how Marines are. Let's go.
Yeah.
So, oh, Nellie, I think Nellie went with us.
Mm.
Nellie, Keith Little's wife, and Mrs. Peaches and Mr. Peaches.
Hmm.
But they didn't ride down with us, but they attended the event as well. Mr. and Mrs. Buck. And but we parked out there on that edge, and of course they did a piss call. And well, some of the men were still out there on the side of the road before they built the rest area. The men were out there. They climbed on top of the rocks, and then they just sat there, and they were looking out over the Mogollon Rim back towards the valley. And we just visited there, and we all got loaded up, and we took another stop over at Heber again. And you know how how old people travel, but these guys weren't old, and I think they were still in like their 60s or 70s. I'm not sure. But
Still adventurous though.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I think my
The
dad
journey
was like
kept going.
older. I think then my dad was in his older 70s. And so we came home, and then when Navajo Code Talker Day was coming around, I think it was like in June or something like that, and Code Talker Day's in August. I asked the men if I could throw them a party. I says, "Can we throw you a party?" And they said, "Sure, Mike." And of course, they voted on it. They all go to meetings. They present a resolution, and they all vote. And they voted on it. And so I went to the office of the president. At the time was Mr. Shirley, and the chief of staff was Patrick Sandoval. His staff, Angie, horse herder.
Really? Angie
Yeah,
Horseherder? Oh, that's awesome.
She's from out. She's from out where my grandma's from, and all their staff. I gave my idea to Patrick, and he called in all of his staff, his chief, his cabinet, and he goes, "Okay, Mike, present your idea." And I told him I thought, which was basically a mirror of the Iwo Jima celebration. We did a little parade. Actually, I think the first one we didn't do a parade. I think the very first one was just a dinner. And
But then it grew.
Entertainment. And so we just picked up some tables and pop-ups in the park there in the parking lot. And the chief of staff, he had his staff cook pork steaks. The president had his staff cook pork steaks, and I think we had like that first one we had 66 men that were living, and 33 attended the event, and we had about 200 people. The majority of them were just family members that helped drive the Code Talkers there, and the chief of staff and the people that put it together, and the entertainers. So we had people come and just entertain.
Yeah.
There wasn't like really any agenda or anything. We just had a party.
That's great.
It was the coolest one.
It is. It's gorgeous. And you have a mission now. You want to do something with this knowledge, these stories, and this celebration within families. You want to talk a little bit about your vision of what you'd like National Code Talkers Day to be and continue?
Okay, so
expand into maybe it's expand. Like,
so right now, after that event, after I think like the second event, after the second event, so there isn't no National Navajo Code Talkers Day. There was only that one day,
okay,
1982.
Oh, just one day.
But there is Navajo Code Talker Day, because after that event, my brother, a Marine who was a council delegate, his name is Larry Anderson. Larry, my bro, Vietnam veteran, Yeah, a lot of respect for him.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of respect. He presented legislation to the Navajo Nation Council, and the council passed the resolution to recognize August 14th as Navajo Code Talker Day every year.
Ah, okay. I think
After
I
that,
confused it. I thought that Reagan had done it like it's every year. Okay,
no, he did
cool.
it just that one year.
Like that
But
one day. Okay,
after
got it.
that event, my brother Larry, he presented that legislation, and it
Mm-hmm.
was a nation holiday.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so now it's a Navajo Nation holiday, and just this past year, just like last month,
Mm-hmm.
a friend of mine, Jemasita Peshlakai, who's a senator in the Arizona State Senate, presented legislation to the Arizona State Legislature, and the governor Pat just signed it into law like last Monday or 2 Mondays ago. But Jemasita called me and she said it passed, and she was all excited about it.
What
And
exactly was it that passed? What was it?
Arizona State Navajo Code Talker Day
Ah, all right.
holiday.
Congrats. Yeah,
Day
that's great.
holiday.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Woo.
so now,
Yay.
Phoenix and the state of Arizona can celebrate Navajo Code Talker Day, however they want.
Well,
There's
I want to
no
come down.
agenda. Do it.
Let's do this. That'd be fun.
and and so yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. And this event, it's gotten pretty big. I think the last one there was like 3,000 plus attendees, and there's a parade,
Whoa.
and it's
Yeah.
huge, beautiful. And all the
Yeah.
descendants, they come and they set up they honor their men there at the park. They set up a display. They make a it's the only exclusive Navajo Code Talker parade.
Hmm.
Navajo Code Talkers.
Hmm.
And we it's pretty cool that drum groups and other veterans want to march in the parade. And so what we do, the way we organize, or the way I had visioned the parade, was that any veterans group could honor the Navajo Code Talkers by carrying colors at the front of the parade. And
Hmm.
then behind them, the band. And so a couple of times we actually had the United States Marine Corps band come and play in Windrock. Yeah.
Whoa. That would
Yeah,
be
we had a
super
bunch of
cool.
visitors. We've had a bunch of dignitaries of the Marine Corps
That's
after
awesome.
they found out after Brenda McNulty from the Young Marines started making those contacts in Washington D.C. Man, Brenda
Mm-hmm.
McNulty is a big, big part of Navajo
Mm-hmm.
culture today here in Windrock.
Mm-hmm.
I met the Young Marines in Guam with my dad and Keith Little and who
Mm-hmm.
was at the time. I think it was Albert Smith. We were in Guam, and we were on a bus touring the base down there, the Air Force base, and they were showing us the snake traps around the base because there's a brown snake that was brought to Guam and ended up killing all the birds.
Ooh.
And so they're trying to get rid of the birds on or the snakes on Guam that came in on a plane. And so they were showing us this fence around the whole Air Force base, and it's one of the only places on Guam that has like little birds that can fly around and be safe. So we're taking this tour around the base, and there was some young folks in there with this lady named Brenda McNulty, National Young Marines, and they were from there. She moved to Castle Rock now, Castle Rock Young Marines, but before that, they were from over by Temecula, Hemet, that area.
Yeah, San Diego.
No, north of Fallbrook on the road to south of,
Okay.
on that 215 or something.
Hmm.
Anyway, um, that's where she was from, and and when we were on the bus, the men were like, "Pisco, yeah, Pisco." And so the bus stops, and we all jumped out, and Brenda goes, "Are these Navajo Code Talkers? Like, like real Navajo Code Talkers? The actual Navajo Code Talkers?" I says, "Yeah, they're Navajo Code Talkers." And she goes, "Can I meet them? Can I say hello? Can we introduce them to the young Marines?" I said, "Sure, sure. Go ask them. They'll say hello." And so she went over there, and we went over there, and we introduced them, and from that time on, the Young Marines have been part of the Navajo Code Talker Day.
Mm, there it is.
She was our
Once again, you
contact.
bridged it. You were the
She
bridge.
was our contact through the
Yeah.
National Young Marines Association,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Washington D.C. I think Mr. Bless, Major Bless,
Mm-hmm.
or Colonel Bless, and some other. It's changed over the years, but I think Bless was the last one. BLISS, and they've been extremely helpful with contact through headquarters Marine Corps. And
Right.
so once we were able to we've always been trying to get a flyover, but we've never been able to
Nah.
do it.
Keep
Once we did the
visualizing.
Nation, once we did
Visualize.
once we did the Navajo Nation plane, but
Yeah.
kind of didn't work. The
All
thing's
right.
still working out.
I feel it.
But
I feel it.
anyway,
Well,
that's
listen,
what we were
Mr.
trying
Michael
for.
Smith, you are just so full of beautiful experiences and stories. Like I could talk to you all day. Like it's so fun to hear the history that you know. We are coming up on time, so we're going to have to wind down, but there's going to be more opportunities. So as we get closer to August 14th, let's reconvene,
Okay.
and check in with what you're doing. I know you're
Okay.
interested in writing a book, right? You're planning because you have such a robust life that you could be sharing.
This is actually a suggestion from my oldest brother,
Hmm.
Robert T. Garcia.
Hmm.
He said I should write a book about the Navajo Code Talkers.
I think so.
Right now, since I'm alive, I'd rather just tell stories about the Navajo Code
Hmm.
Talkers.
But maybe
So,
someone can capture it and put it on print for you. You know what I mean? Like just
yeah,
record you and get
yeah.
it going and put it together. Not put the stress on you. There's people that can do that. So if you're out there listening, we've got a hot subject here with someone who knows intimately what that is about in American history and Navajo history. Like it's just a powerful, powerful story.
But I don't want to
Stories,
write. I don't want to write
stories.
a book about just the Navajo Code Talkers. I think I've been very blessed in my life,
Mhm.
and I don't know why I was blessed with all these beautiful experiences and to grow up the way that I did in Fort Defiance.
Mhm.
And so, and about baseball in Fort Defiance,
Mhm.
Navajo Capital Youth Baseball League, and all of our
Mhm.
coaches and all of our friends, all our brothers that we grew up with, and we end up coaching as well, not
Mhm.
just not just individuals, but with the whole family. So when we coached my sons, I didn't just coach. We all coached. It was a way of life. It wasn't just
Community.
baseball. I mean, it was baseball.
Hmm.
We just had fun.
Yeah.
So there's another chapter, and uh, St. Michael's, going to school at St. Michael's Elementary.
Hmm.
Priceless, man.
See,
Priceless.
there's a book. You got
70.
stories, my friend.
I love
Well,
it.
Yeah, well, I love your energy, and I'm so glad. I'm so grateful for our friendship. Melanin Stories Matter
Me
brought us
too.
together.
I
Hmm?
don't know how we did it, but you know what? That Don
Don
Manuel. So
Manuelito. Don Manuelito. Love
you know
her too.
her dad is one of my baseball dads. He coached
Oh,
me in my first team. Her
that's
dad.
yeah, you go way
When
back.
I
Yeah.
wore when I my first uniform was a wool uniform,
Ooh.
and I was so tiny that I wore the Bat Boys uniform.
That's good image. We got to find a photo of that. Yeah. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time. We will we'll enjoy circulating this, and good luck as you continue with the work that you're doing. Thank your wife too for helping with the tech setup. Enjoy your chili pep. What was it? Chili spread? Hot chili? What are you eating? Hot
So I
pepper?
make a red chili paste and a green chili paste that
Look good.
my mom and grandma taught me how to make at Acoma.
Mm.
So I just spread that on Acoma bread. A lot of people put salt on it, but nah, it's good like that. So,
Well, enjoy your lunch. Enjoy. And again, thank you. All right. So we will be seeing you again. And this will conclude this episode 3 of Melanin Stories Matter podcast,
all
video
right,
podcast, too.
looking forward to your feedback.
Yeah. All right, my friend. I'm going to end the broadcast now.
Okay.